Yes, York Tomorrow. We founded York Tomorrow many years ago when when the developers wanted to put a major shopping centre on the Clifford's Tower site, backed by the council, and we felt that this was not the appropriate use of the site, and we formed a group which involved people who were very concerned about this, and we represented ourselves at the eventual public inquiry to object to the proposals, because we always felt that the city needed open space on this side of the centre to complement the open space provided by the museum gardens on the north side. And we felt that building a massive shopping centre here was not the best use of the site. And we felt that anything which detracted from the splendid Clifford's Tower monument and the court buildings surrounding the Eye of York, which are all listed, would not be really the best way of using the space. So we attended the public inquiry, which eventually rejected the proposals which were put forward, and subsequent to that we gave some thought to how the space should be developed in the longer term, and we had some initial consultations with the council about that, and then it all went very quiet because nobody knew really what was happening, and the developers pulled out and the whole thing collapsed. So it's now a question of starting again with any ideas that needed to be put forward, which the council could support. I mean, we can't get anywhere without the support of the council, that's clear, because they own a lot of the site. And we've come up with some what we think are quite interesting ideas of how the space could be used for public events and recreation across a whole spectrum of uses, which we think would be very interesting to the city and complement its sort of tourism potential, if you like, but also for the benefit of the residents here as well. So that's where we stand at the moment. So
the public inquiry came out with a kind of definitive end. It came out with a judgment. That was obviously 12, 13 years back.
Mm-hmm.
How relevant do you think that stands now, given the passage of time, changes in planning law?
I think that the inspector's suggestions at the time were enough to stop the project. I don't think they're really relevant now, to be quite frank, because circumstances have changed considerably, and public opinion has changed a lot, I think, now. Much more concerned, I think, with environmental issues in the broad sense, which we're coming from as well. So that while I appreciate the fact that the inspector and everybody that was at the public inquiry did an enormous amount of work presenting the for and against arguments, I feel that we should start afresh completely now and say, look, okay, there was a planning brief at one time, that has now changed. I would suspect it's not really acceptable now, and that we should start looking at really radical proposals which would attract widespread support, regardless of whether the initial assessments by the council say we could afford it. Now that's something where we will perhaps differ, but I feel if we don't start with a clean sheet, we will never get anywhere, because the arguments for financial difficulties will become paramount, and that's never a way of getting a satisfactory solution. And we think there are ways around this, which we're very happy to discuss with officers and everybody else involved to make sure that we have a successful outcome.
Do you think that the fact that we're now looking at a broader area, a broader part of town, gives opportunities to look beyond those initial kind of financial problems?
I certainly do. I think the fact that the area of consultation now is much broader and includes St George's Field and Tower Gardens, as well as extending over into Fossgate, Wormgate and that area as well. It gives us a real opportunity to look at it in very broad terms indeed, and allocate perhaps different land uses, different transport solutions, which I think is crucial to the area. That's one of the main obstacles, I think, which many people bring forward to say, well, we can't do this. We are not in the business of saying we can't do this. We are in the business of saying, yes, we can do this, but you've got to get support, you've got to get people thinking in a different way about how we deal with our city. And we think that there are ways forward which we can make the whole of this area, which has been somewhat neglected, let's face it, for many, many years, into a really dynamic addition to what the city can provide for its population.